So if you guys are building out an all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive Sprinter, you're gonna need side steps on it. And let me show you exactly why. This van, currently 26 inches to get up into the step, and it has factory rims on it, slightly larger tire, but it hasn't been upsized to a 17, and it also has factory suspension. So these vans off the lot are extremely tall. They can get even taller if you're gonna upsize your rims or put suspension on it. It's gonna get even higher off the ground. So this is not a comfortable step to get in and out of. As a matter of fact, it's really not safe. You would hurt yourself over time, and I don't even care if you're 6'2", 6'4", you're still gonna want a step on this. So there are a lot of different side steps on the market. Two things that I always look for are a wide, safe step, number one, and number two is the right height off the ground, because if they're too high up, they don't really serve the purpose. If they're too low, then they're likely to get scraped on rocks and other obstacles. So you want it to be nice and wide, and then also at the right height off the ground. So the folks at Sandy Vans have a new side step. They were nice enough to send us a set of them. I'm gonna send it over to the guys and we'll show you how they're actually installed, and then give you a review once it's in about whether or not it's a step that we would recommend.
Hi guys, my name's Sam here with Vanland. Today we are going to be doing a side step install. Sandy Vans just released their new Sprinter side step. A few important things to keep in mind when building your van or choosing steps for the van is what kind of platform you're going to be looking to step on. There's quite a few varieties on the market as far as platform area, how far off the ground the steps are, and the length of the step. If you wanted to run the full length of the van, or if you would just like the step in a certain portion in front of the door. All right, so the first step that I'm going to be taking in installing these steps is I'm going to go over and grab the step itself, get it mocked up on the floor jack here, and kind of just get an idea of where I'm going to be making my marks for drilling on the pinch weld. All right, so right now I got the steps mocked up against the side of the van. A couple key points to keep in mind. There is a point in the pinch weld towards the front by the passenger and driver doors that you are going to want to butt the bracket of the side steps themselves up to. So I'm gonna get down here and take a look and see how close we are. And we still have a couple inches of gap. So we're going to slide this guy on down a bit. All right, so now we are butted up in the front. This is about where we're going to have our steps live the remainder of their life. And you want to make sure that there is no gaps and you have the step as tight as possible against the inside of the van. So right here, just above the pinch weld, behind the mud flap, you're going to notice this notch sticking out of the body of the van. And if you notice here, I have the forwardmost mounting bracket of the side steps butted up to the back side of this sort of horn coming out. And once you are butted up there, you just kind of want to make sure the step is pressed towards the outside so you don't have a big gap in between the actual van and the bracket itself. And then we're going to be getting our paint marker out and making some drilling hole marks so we can figure out where we're going to be drilling. All right, so these brackets here are included with the side steps. The next step here, once we have the step butted up against the pinch weld, we are actually going to insert this bracket from below. So we have that bracket slid up tight against the pinch weld in the bottom of the van here. You're going to want to keep a finger on that, get your paint pen in there, and make some marks. This space is a little tight. So you see we got 2 holes right there, and now we're going to work our way down the entirety of the step, making the rest of our mounting marks, and then go from there. All right, so now our next step, we're going to take the supplied bracket in the kit, and with the holes that we just made marks for, we're going to go through with our drill bit and our drill here and drill them out and get these bolted up with the supplied hardware. A couple important things. Always have your safety glasses. You don't want to get hot metal shards in your eye. That's not fun. You want to go through the pinch weld and make sure that the bracket is as high up as it possibly can go to prevent drooping in the side step. Again, we're going to take our bracket here, line it up to your marks, double check to make sure that your marks are as far up as they can possibly be. Everything looks good there. Take our drill, make our holes. Due to the shape of this pinch weld, your bit might want to wander, so always start slow until you know you got a good start, and then you can power through. Good. We'll go on to our next one. Again, it's on a slope. You're going to want to start slow. Don't let your drill bit wander. All right, so now we're going to work our way down the pinch weld and get the rest of these holes drilled out, and then proceed to mounting our brackets. Another important note that you're going to want to do before mounting these brackets is to get a deburring tool and go through each one of your holes and clean up kind of the excess metal shavings left over from drilling the holes. So I'm going to go through, do that, and then get some rust preventative. Any sort of paint or Rust-Oleum will work to prevent any body rust from the install of these steps. All right, so we just went and reamed out our holes with the deburring tool. I'm going to go through now with some black spray paint to prevent any body rust to happen in the van's life. It's always important, any hole that you make inside of a van, to paint it. You're going to regret it later down the road if you don't. All right, now that we've got our paint on our drilled holes, given it a few minutes to dry, we're going to go through and mount our brackets with the supplied hardware. I got my tools here with me that you're going to be needing. 11mm open end wrench, 4mm Allen. You don't need the impact gun. You can do it with the hand tool. Either way will work. Yeah, let's go ahead and get one of these mounted up. Important note to keep in mind is the orientation of the hardware. You're going to want that Allen head facing towards the outside of the vehicle and a washer on either side of the pinch weld, followed by the nylock locking nut. So now we're going to take our 11mm open end wrench. You can either use the open or box side, doesn't matter. Our 4mm Allen. And we're going to go ahead and tighten these. Don't go too tight, just snug them up. And also, when using an impact gun on an Allen head, be very cautious. They are known to strip out. Just like so. Give it a little tug, make sure it's sturdy, and now we're going to go through and mount the rest of them up. Alright, so we just finished getting the brackets bolted up to the side step. We're now going to move on to getting the actual side step pulled up, attached to the brackets themselves on the pinch weld. The next tool we're going to be using is an impact along with a 3/8 hex impact driving socket. They just maintain these self-tappers on the inside of the van. So I'm going to be going underneath once I get the step brought up, and then we're going to go from there. Alright, so I'm having a little bit of issue with one of the brackets here. It is a little tight making these mounting holes, so you do want to be careful of these possibly shifting. I'm just going to give it a slight little tap here with a dead blow mallet, and hopefully we can work its way over just a tad bit so our step lines up a bit better. right, so with just a couple taps of the hammer, I was able to shift the brackets over just enough to get the step slid up into position. And once you get to this point, we can kind of leave the jack here to hold it ideally where we want it sitting. Keep in mind the angle of the step. You know, you're going to want it more of a 90 degrees, or you can even cantilever it up a tad bit. I've noticed that helps with water drainage, but we're going to move on to getting the self-tappers in underneath and go from there. All right, so one thing I wanted to bring up, as I did mention, this van is outfitted with multiple accessories underneath the van, one of them being their incline hot water heater. So as far as mounting holes, everything seems to line up great. I'm not having any interference with the water heater brackets, but as I make my way to this last set of self-tapping holes, it is a little tight, and I am not able to get my normal impact driver up there. You might need a special sort of right angle to get those last self-tappers in, as it is a very small opening. All right, I'm gonna start with this bracket right here. We have our self-tapper. Make sure not to over tighten them. Self-tappers will strip out. Just like that. Also helps to have a magnetic bit holder. Will save you some time and trouble. I notice on our middle bracket, you have two middle brackets, and it's going to be the one closer to the rear of the van. My particular setup is having one of the holes line up over one of the drains in the body, so we're not going to have as much metal to grab here, so just be a little bit more cautious if this happens to you. All right, so on our passenger side of the vehicle, we're going to be using 2 of the 3 support steps that are provided inside of the side step kit. They are attached to the side step using some supplied hardware, washer, nylock nut, and bolt. And then we're going to use more of those self-tappers that we used earlier and secure the upper part of the arm to the frame rail. Let's get under there and take a look, shall we? All right, once we're under the van, we're gonna take one of our support brackets here, kind of see where it resides against the frame rail. So as you can see, we have the long slotted oval bracket at the bottom. They kind of give you a nice slotted space for any variation in the steps, making it much easier to get these up. So once you check everything and everything seems to line up square, we're going to take our hardware and just get that bolt, nylock nut, and washer loosely snugged. All right, once you have that hardware snugged at the bottom, we're going to wait on tightening it, and now we're going to secure some self-tappers to the upper portion of the arm. Watch out for hot metal shavings. Might be a good idea to have some long sleeves on or a fan blowing the shavings out of the way. All right. Once we got those two self-tappers in, we are going to get the other arm up and then go through and tighten the hardware at the bottom. On the passenger side, where we will be utilizing the arms is going to be the two middle bracket positions. I already got the most rearward mounted, and now we're going to be doing the most frontward. One quick thing I did want to add before securing these bolts at the bottom, I have to go back through and use the rest of the self-tappers to adhere bracket to the step. You want to make sure you do this before securing the lower bolt. All right, I have the jack underneath the step with it now supported so we get a good angle and it is not pointed downward. So once I got that first one done, now I'm working my way through the rest of the side step and putting self-tappers on both sides of each bracket, equaling a total of 8 self-tappers on this side and 6 for the other. So once we got the self-tappers installed for the support arms, I just went and grabbed a 9/16 wrench and then a 14mm socket. We're going to go through here and tighten those 2 bottom bolts on the support brackets. Let's go get those guys tightened up. Wrench on the back side to capture the nut. Impact. All right, once we got those 2 bolts tightened up, we've just completed the passenger side step. Now we're going to move on to the driver's side and pretty much repeat everything we did with less drilling.
Feels sturdy. Liking the steps already.
I just got the van all flipped around here and we're going to be moving on to the driver's side portion of the steps. Just like the passenger side, it's going to be the same process. Start by mocking up the step itself, getting our dots made for our holes, and then proceeding with drilling, mocking up the brackets, and then getting the side step itself up. Very straightforward. Less brackets on the driver's side, should go a lot quicker. Got those holes drilled, gonna come back through with the deburring tool, clean up any scraps left in here and any excessive undercoating. Want to hit it on the front and the inside of the pinch well. All right, just went through with the deburr, cleaned up all the rough edges. Now I'm going to go through and get that rust preventative. In this case, we're using primer black. Whatever paint works, just get some on there so it doesn't rust. Once we got that primer on there and given it a few minutes to dry, we're going to go back through and get our 3 brackets bolted up, again with the Allen button head fasteners. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Grab our 4mm Allen and 11mm open end wrench. Alright, so now that we got that bracket up, we're going to move on to the last 2, and once we get those 2 up, we can move on to getting the step bolted to the pinch weld. We just got those brackets tightened down. Next step is going to be getting the step in position. We're going to raise the step up towards those brackets and see how well it slides into position. Now we're going to move underneath the van and get those first self-tappers started, and then move on to the support brackets. Now that we got those self-tappers in, we're going to be taking our third and final support bracket. This bracket's going to be going in the middle of the step, using the middle bracket. That's the only spot that you're going to get a good frame point attachment. Another important note to keep in mind is to keep your reinforcement arm about as centered as possible on this attachment point on the step itself. Just kind of gives you the most variability if something does shift. And just like that, we are all done with our driver's side portion of the side step.
All right, steps are in. Let's take a look. Took Sam about 3 hours to get these in, so that's on the quicker side in terms of how long it takes side steps to get in. And it looks like there wasn't any interference with any of the equipment we have underneath, so that's also a huge plus. Let's take a look at the step. First of all, texture-wise, it's a nice kind of textured powder coat on here. Bit of anti-slip, and I really like all the perforations they put in it. Then if you're stepping up on this with sand on your feet, then it's just going to go through and not get caught on here. Also at the back edge, these perforations will allow like snow, if there accumulates on there, to drain off. So that's really nice. And let's take a look at those two important features. So this has a 6.5 inch footbed. That's really good. So stepping up in here, it feels very generous, very safe. Some other steps, if they get too high and have a small footbed, they just don't feel safe getting up in and out of the van. Also, I'll mention that this one will work great with bare feet. So final measurement here, you're right at about 14 inches to the top of the step on this van. So 14 to there, and then 24 up to this step, so that feels about right. I just don't like steps that are too high. And obviously this would be an area that could get damaged on rocks, so if that's a concern, that's the only reason this might not be the right step. But again, with 13 inches of clearance underneath it, as long as you take care, you shouldn't be running into anything. Once the van gets new wheels and tires and a suspension kit put on, this is going to come up even higher. So all in all, I would say a really good high quality step. They're not overpriced. Sandy Vans got these to us in like a week. So yeah, if you're interested, there's a link in the description. We do sell the Sandy Vans line of equipment. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We love making videos like this for you guys, but we would also love it if you were subscribed. And please give us your feedback on what videos you guys would like to see. All right, thanks again for watching, and we will see you guys again next time.